Welcome to this presentation by ESPNcricinfo on the best performances of 2010. And we saw quite a few in the 2020 version as well. There was a 2020 World Cup. And so here is the list that the jury was given, the nominees they worked on for the best batting performance. And it's quite a list. Take a look. Michael Hussey's 60 not out versus Pakistan in the semi-final of the World 2020. It was an astonishing performance. Brendon McCullum got 100, and that's always special. 116 not out versus Australia in the second game at Christchurch. And then Suresh Raina set that World T20 alive by making 101 versus South Africa at St. Lucia. Kevin Pietersen got 53 against South Africa. That was in the World 2020 as well at Barbados. And in the same tournament, a stylist like Mahela Jayawardene made 98 not out against the West Indies. There were some bigger scores than Mike Hussey's 60 not out, but that performance came at a very crucial phase for Australia. It came from just 24 balls, and it revived them from a position of near death. So the winner is Michael Hussey. And in Sanjay, some of us were around to see that innings. It was breathtaking, not the least because it came from someone who'd almost earned his stripes in the more traditional form of the game.
It's a tribute to Michael Hussey that he's become such a versatile batsman. You would have said about him before he came into the Test side, if you saw him playing for WA, and he did it successfully for a long time, that he is a very traditional player. But, you know, and he was a traditional opening batsman. He's made himself into a middle order player, and he's made himself into a guy who can hit sixes. Very versatile. And sometimes as a batsman, the adrenaline can be your worst enemy. You know, it can get you going to the point where you just can't stop yourself and then you do something idiotic. There's no doubt that the adrenaline was really pumping with Hussey on that occasion. I mean, you saw it when he finished up winning the game. I mean, he was going berserk. But that was an occasion where he made the adrenaline work for him because he was still, even though he was really pumped up and going, he was able to think about what he was doing, and he kept his head when the bowlers down the other end, they were losing theirs, and that's why Hussey was able to win the battle. And I guess the other thing that makes it special is to do it, you know, in a semi-final, to get your team into the final of a world tournament. It's a pretty special performance.
I'll tell you what else I remember about that innings. At breakfast the next morning, Michael Hussey ran into Ian Chappell, who said, "Michael, don't you remember what I taught you at the academy? Keep the ball on the ground." And he kept hitting it all.
If he'd have listened to me, he wouldn't have played that innings, you said.
Maybe you would have, but coming down at number 7, and it just shows you the caliber of the person who keeps reinventing himself. And I thought what stood out to me in that innings was that he kept it alive right till the end.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Michael Hussey. You know, he's a fighter. He'll keep fighting till the end. And what, 4 balls, 22 runs in the last over, and they won with 1 ball to spare as well. And Saeed Ajmal, I think, was the guy who really panicked while Hussey kept his nerves. And I think it's something the batsmen also sense. You know, when they're in command, they're feeling good about themselves. They have the confidence to hit at will, and they see the fielding team sort of getting a little anxious, and that's what they feed on. I remember meeting Ramiz Raja the next day. He's a Pakistani, former captain, and I believe somewhat a supporter, although he's supposed to be a neutral commentator. But all he could talk about was just the magical nature of that Michael Hussey innings. He had forgotten about Pakistan's loss. This was a World T20 tournament and a semi-finals, and that's the reason it gets a little more value than the other bigger knocks.
And just to tell you how versatile he was, he hit the sixes, he hit the boundaries, but in the 19th over, he ran 4 twos. Yeah. Which means he showed how versatile he could be. He could sense the situation and play accordingly.
Well, it indicates, one, that he's a very fast runner between wickets, which he is, and a very good runner between wickets. But also it indicates that the brain was still ticking over. You know, what do we need in this situation? And that's a tremendous thing to do, you know, in a situation like that where it's desperation stakes, and also the adrenaline is really pumping. So he kept his head very well.
Michael Hussey kept his head while the bowlers were losing there, and it required an astonishing innings to go past some others to win the ESPNcricinfo award for the best T20 batting performance of 2010.